or labor unions. Could you speak to a little bit more further about that, those two pieces?
Okay. Yes, sir. I'm happy to speak to those. Those were awarded, as you mentioned, a couple weeks ago, so they're in our budget now. We are going out to bid for a compensation. We want to do a comprehensive compensation and salary analysis and market study. We would like to hire a consultant to work with us to review all of our classifications. There are 600 plus classifications that we want to have reviewed to ensure that those are consistent or better than the market. As you know, we're not alone as an employer in trying to recruit and retain employees. And right now, we really want to take a look at our total benefits packages to ensure that, you know, we are an employer of choice and our salaries are comparable, if not better than the market, as well as the other rewards that go along with that. The costing model tool will be used by labor relations in our office as well as finance. This costing model will allow us to prepare and have real-time numbers for negotiations as we go into 2023. So when we're sitting there talking about various changes to terms and conditions of employment, we're hoping that this costing model will put us in a position to have real-time numbers, help eliminate some human error that may go along with inputting things, and use this model to make us more efficient at the table.
And then if you could just speak a little bit to what the upcoming labor negotiations are, how many bargaining units we have and what's going to occur over the next year, that would be great.
Okay. Yes, I can tell you that all of the bargaining units will be up for negotiations. I believe CWA is up first. So we have our non-uniformed CWA and AFSCME, both 1632 and 2191. And we also have negotiations will fall a little later in the year with IAFF and our FOP bargaining units. So all of them we are preparing for in 2023, which is why we have increased slightly the contract with our chief negotiator.
Thank you very much. And I will acknowledge that we are now live. They're working out a few kinks. For those of you that are joining us, we are in the first presentation that was HR, and we will continue through. The recorded version will be posted after this hearing concludes. And so I'll turn it over now to Director Amy DeLong.
Good afternoon, Chair Remy. As you know, the Civil Service Commission is a part of the checks and balances of city government and is responsible for maintaining a merit system to ensure the city employment is accessible and filled with qualified, competent individuals. To that end, the Commission's budget request for 2023 is $5,235,481. This reflects a 5% increase over our final 2022 appropriation of $4,995,832. This increase is a result of our This increase is a result of administering the police officer exam 3 times in 2023, as we did this year, and the increase in the medical and psychological contracts associated with the increase in the number of police and fire candidates that we will be hiring in 2023. Our primary expenses for 2023 are as follows. Our personnel costs are the majority of our budget at $4,499,000. Our materials and supplies are around $37,000. Our contracted services, mainly our medical and psychological contracts, as well as a EDGE grant, was $695,000, and we have other expenses at about $35,000. With the adoption of the requested budget, the Commission will have a total of 39 full-time and 12 part-time regular positions to carry out our classification and applicant assessment responsibilities. With that, I'd like to thank you and be happy to entertain any questions you might have regarding my 2023 budget.
Sure, thank you very much. With the passage of the Civil Service Charter Amendment ballot issue, how will this impact testing and recruiting for future city applicants, both in safety and citywide?
I think the biggest change that we'll have will result in our banding. Under that charter amendment, it currently says that we will have no fewer than 3 bands. Our rule change our charter change says now that we have no more than 3 bands. So with that change, we can have 1, 2, or 3 bands. I will be presenting rules that will retain to that to my commission. It was supposed to be Monday, the 12th. That's going to change to the 19th as a result of a death in the family of one of my commissioners. So we will have a 9 o'clock meeting on the 19th to discuss those rules. What we're looking at now, based on the data that we reviewed, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the data because I think it's really important. When we reviewed our current list, as of October of this year, we had over 102 of our current list that had only 25 or fewer names on the list. We only had 4 that had over 100 names on our current list. With that analysis of the data that we looked at, we have come to the conclusion that, and are presenting to our commission, that if we have a list of fewer than 50 names, it will be a single banded list. If we have a list of more than 50 names of people who actually took and passed the exam, we will have it would be 51 to 100, we would have 2 bands. And if we had a list that had more than 100 names, we would have 3 bands on that list. The difference, I think, that's going to make the most significance to police and fire having both more than 100 names on the list is that currently, if you have more than 5 names in a single band, you can't go to the next list or the next band. Our current situation allows, well, with the rule change that we're presenting, they will be able to go to the next band with having 14 or less names. So that's going to give them a little more flexibility when they're trying to hire as many people as they're hiring, to continue to process names while they're waiting on some background information and stuff that may hold up some people for a little longer. So it'll allow us to process those names faster. I think those are the most significant changes that we'll have to our rules that will help in the hiring process.
So I don't want to, see, that was a little loud. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I've been challenging you in your department to come up with an opportunity to, software-wise and other ways, methods to test on demand. So in other words, continually repopulating that list. Because what happens is, just for the general public's knowledge, is that some of these lists get to be a year plus year old. And at that point, if you've got people that haven't found a job at that point, especially in the current job market or in the previous job markets that we've experienced, they're not always, they've either found other jobs, or if they haven't found a job, they're not always the best candidates to be hiring, for instance. And so more of a test on demand. The system itself, although well-intended, 80 years ago, hasn't quite kept up with and that was why we asked for some of these amendments, because of the fact that we don't get as many, and that's across the board, whether it's safety, whether it's refuse, whether it's the Department of Economic Development, for instance. So is there some appetite, and is the commission working towards a more test on demand system so that we can continually repopulate these lists as we move forward, and always have the opportunity for somebody that wants to come in and fill a job to be able to test for it and potentially get a job within the next month?
Yes and no. Let's talk a little bit about what we're doing. As a part of that process, currently our lists are 2-year lists. And for jobs that we may only hire 1 position in that 2 years, it's probably not a bad plan. But for those lists where we're hiring, 20 people in a year, we definitely are looking at having monthly testing that will be it'll be ongoing continual testing for those positions. And that's something that will start as of January 1st, and that's when all of those rules will take effect that I talked about. As a part of our big career fair that we're also having at the end of the month, what's the date? January 28th. We'll be having a career fair that day. And prior to that career fair, we're going to go out to 4 of our rec centers and actually have pre-employment fairs to help people actually apply for positions prior to getting to the career fair. So when they come to the career fair, we hope that they're ready to start interviewing and looking at jobs versus coming there to learn how to apply for jobs. So we are starting to try to think of more creative ways to get people through the process quicker. In cases like police, where we're actually having one list that fills an entire class, and then we're having to test for the next list, there's continuing testing pretty much all the time with that process.
So let's be clear and, kind of make a public announcement right now. If you're interested in a job with the city of Columbus and you want to apply, and of course there is testing that's involved, you will help them with how to take that test, correct?
Absolutely. We have, currently have testing clinics. So if someone is interested in learning how to take a test and is worried about taking tests, we have those opportunities. I actually turned one of my positions into a community liaison. I think that's going to help with our equity agenda, because not everybody is starting at the same point in terms of how to apply. On our website now, if people are interested in applying and maybe have English as a second language, we actually have the visual of how to apply in terms of, the oral and visual. It'll actually show you with the mouse, touching on where you have to go to actually get your profile in the system, and then how to apply for his position as well.
And if somebody's interested in job postings, where would they go? And then for that testing information, how would you direct them?
They can go right on our website, our civil service website on columbus.gov, go to civil service, and all of that information is on there. Easy to find and easy, perfectly labeled so that it's easy to find.
Thank you very much, Director.
Yeah, and
Go
our
ahead.
career fair information is on there as well. We definitely want to get people out to that event at 11/11 on the 28th, because we have hundreds of job openings.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Director.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to the Environment Committee. We have Deputy Director Elena Shockey, Assistant Director Steve Wenzel, Natural Resources and Asset Manager Tina Moan, and everybody else that wants to contribute. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you guys for your presentation.
Thank you, Chair Remy, for this opportunity to talk about Sustainable Columbus and our plans for 2023. Sustainable Columbus is housed in the Department of Public Utilities. Our initiative focuses on optimizing internal city operations and working with external stakeholders throughout the community to enhance and promote environmentally friendly policies throughout the community. There are 5 sections of our Climate Action Plan, which is the guiding document for Sustainable Columbus. Climate Solutions, the Columbus Way, Sustainable Neighborhoods, Buildings, Transportation, and Waste. There are 13 strategies within these 5 sections and 32 key actions that are identified as necessary for us to meet our climate goals. At our November Sustainable Columbus Committee meeting, we shared the exciting news that our community is making strides on greenhouse gas emission reductions. Our total community scale emissions have decreased 14.5% from 2013 to 2021, despite a population increase of 10%. But there's significantly more for us to do to meet our 2030 goals. To meet these goals, we've reorganized and added to our Sustainable Columbus team to focus on delivery. Our Sustainable Columbus office is now divided into 3 sections: climate and energy, resilience and behavior change, and communications and engagement, which brings us to our 2023 budget. In 2023, we have budgeted just over $1 million for personnel, which funds 11 staff members. 3 of those positions, which I recognize are very difficult to see on the screen, are new in 2023. That will be our Management Analyst 1, who's responsible for tracking our greenhouse gas emission reductions, our One Water Coordinator, and our lead service line engagement coordinator. We have also budgeted $16,000 to support our membership in key sustainability organizations, including the Urban Sustainability Directors Network, ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability, and the Midwest Climate Collaborative. In 2023, we've also budgeted $25,000 to continue measuring and tracking our greenhouse gas emissions, utilizing the technical expertise of our partners at the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. Building a clean energy workforce is a critical element of our climate action plan. We've budgeted $1.65 million to support workforce development in the clean energy sector by continuing and growing our Empowered program that we have partnered with Impact Community Action to develop and implement. This program creates pathways for young people 18 years and older, focused on our communities of color, women, and in our opportunity neighborhoods. This program serves as an entree for young people to explore careers that will improve air quality through energy efficiency efforts, increase the comfort of our homes, and make our infrastructure stronger. We're actively recruiting for our next cohort of participants that's planned to begin in February 2023. And this funding will ensure the continuation, growth, and improvement of this impactful program. Additionally, we are working at the nexus of greenhouse gas emission reduction and equity by budgeting $1.5 million to support enhanced weatherization in partnership, again, with our partner Impact Community Action to provide weatherization services to residents in our opportunity neighborhoods who are experiencing significant energy burden. For those folks whose income falls just outside federal thresholds for eligibility in federal home weatherization programs. In 2023, we will also continue to support our partnership with Solar United Neighbors to launch solar co-ops, giving Columbus and Central Ohio residents opportunities to come together to collectively learn about and purchase solar. And as you'll hear from my colleague, David Calabrese, we will continue to support and grow our Green Spot program by funding that work. I encourage viewers to visit our website to learn more about our work and also to follow us on Instagram at Sustainable Columbus, all one word. Thank you again for the opportunity to have us here to share more about Sustainable Columbus, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Sure. Last week, I believe it was, we approved a $7 million investment in the Columbus Regional, Green Fund, which is an equity-focused, job-creating, dedicated finance entity that uses innovative financing. Keep going with that. But what if any other clean energy projects can we expect to see out of that fund as we continue to strive towards the goal of carbon neutrality?
Yeah, so that's a great question. 2023 is really going to be characterized by thinking critically about how do we and what do we need to do to build supports for our building owners to enable that transition to a clean energy economy. What I expect to see is that we'll continue to grow our CPACE program through that Green Fund funding that you've mentioned. We'll be able to really target how can we support solar on nonprofits and other kind of community organizations. Then, the hope is that we'll continue to see investments from the IRA, the federal IRA, in such things as energy efficiency block grants to continue to find ways to provide supports to building owners to increase their energy efficiency and renewable energy goals.
And then, David, how many members can we anticipate next year joining Green Spot? And then how can businesses get involved if they need a little extra help going green?
Sure. Well, we're anticipating about 1,500 to 2,000 new members, both combined business, household, and organizations. And if businesses need a little bit extra help, not knowing where to start, they could always email greenspot@columbus.gov, and we're more than happy to talk with them, meet with them to help them achieve their sustainability goals.
Yeah, you've helped many, many businesses, big and small, down on their mission to accomplish this. And so commend you for all the work that you've done in that area and really commend the department for the extra investment. I'm appreciative that, how seriously we're taking this and we continue to grow it as we move along. So I'm going to turn it over now to the the Public Service Department of Refuse presentation so that we can hear more about the work that's being done over there.
Good afternoon, Chair Remy. Thank you for this opportunity to present the highlights of the Department of Public Services proposed 2023 operating budget, specifically as it relates to Refuse Collection Division and the Environment Committee. In 2023 for the Division of Refuse Collection, we have a proposed funding level of $67.4 million, all from the general fund. This represents an increase of $13.5 million, or 25.2%, over the 2022 operating budget, of which $6 million is associated with recycling, $2.1 million is associated with illegal dumping, solid waste, waste and reuse convenience centers. So this proposed funding level will support 239 full-time personnel that provide trash collection services to more than 344,000 households every week, 52 weeks a year. Of that $67.4 million proposed budget, $19.1 million, or 28.3% of the total refuse budget, is related to personnel expenses. $603,500 is for materials and supplies. $47 million is for services, of which $17.2 million is related to recycling and yard waste. $17.8 million is related to tipping fees at the county landfill, and roughly $10.7 million is for maintenance of the division's fleet. $62,000 is allocated for claims and refunds, and $640,000 is for light-duty equipment and fleet updating. Thanks to Mayor Genther's leadership, for the first time, the city will be expanding residential recycling collection to once a week, beginning the summer of 2023, with an additional budget allocation of $6 million. We expect weekly recycling service will increase the amount of collected recycled materials by 25 to 40%, which will assist the division to propel the initiative to be carbon neutral by the year 2050, the cornerstone of the city's climate action plan. So far, the recycling program has been a success. Since the program started June of 2012 through October of this year, residents have recycled almost 326,000 tons of materials, saving the city over $16.9 million in tipping fees at the county landfill. So far, year-to-date this year through October, 24,900 tons of material have been recycled, saving over $1.3 million in tipping fees. Also in 2023, we will be investing an additional $2.1 million to continue to tackle illegal dumping. This includes hiring additional solid waste inspectors to educate residents on proper waste disposal and to prosecute cases of illegal dumping in our city alleys. Of the 239 full-time personnel, this budget will fund 26 staff members dedicated to support the Clean Neighborhoods Initiative, to address the persistent problem of illegal dumping in our neighborhoods. This includes advancing policies like continued replacement of 300-gallon refuse containers with 90-gallon containers, increased staffing numbers to crews dedicated to solid waste inspection and alley cleanups, continued installation of cameras to capture and prosecute illegal dumpers, and the addition of 3 pickup trucks that will assist the city's illegal dumping crews by targeting misuse of and trash overflows in 300-gallon residential containers in hotspot alleys across the city. So far this year, the illegal dumping initiative has been a great success. Refuse collection crews dedicated to pick up and dispose of illegally dumped materials have picked up almost 3,500 tons of debris. Included in that number is over 38.5 tons, or almost 3,700 tires, that have been illegally dumped in our right-of-way. Enforcement by our solid waste inspectors keeps increasing too. So far in 2022, 20 criminal cases have been filed with 49 individuals related to illegal dumping. Another 54 civil violations have been issued so far this year under the Title 13 Refuse Collection Code changes that took effect in September 2020. So far this year, $7,075 has been billed for remediation of illegally dumped materials. Also included in this budget proposal is funding for 2 waste and reuse convenience centers at Elm Creek and Georgesville Road, refuse collection transfer stations, both of which are scheduled to be open next summer. These resources will be available for residents to discard overflow trash, recyclables, bulk items, and yard waste. Plans are also being developed to pilot a new food waste drop-off program at these sites beginning in the spring of next year. The Division of Refuse Collection is also the home of the city's Keep Columbus Beautiful program, or KCB. Every year, KCB staff work with thousands of households, thousands of volunteers from neighborhoods, businesses, schools, churches, and other community organizations to clean litter from Columbus streets. In 2022, the KCB team partnered with volunteer groups for 560 litter abatement and beautification cleanups. In total, almost 8,850 volunteers contributed over 34,000 hours to pick up over 210,000 pounds of litter from public right-of-way, and to help enhance areas with trees, flowers, and the removal of weeds and brush. This kind of work with the community will continue and expand at KCB in 2023, as cleanups, community education, and a major focus on sustainability and recycling drive engagements across city neighborhoods. That concludes my presentation of the 2023 Department of Public Service proposed operating budget. Tim or I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have, Councilmember. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to direct my questions to Tim, since he is the expert, not to slight you in any way, but you gave a great presentation. Can you talk a little bit more about, well, the Waste Reuse Convenience Center is great for the south side and the west side. Do you have plans, if this goes well, to expand this program?
Yes, Councilmember Remy. We're actually working with our partners at SWACO as well, because we feel this is a regional issue. We'd like to demonstrate it at our 2 locations, and if it works well, work with our partners to encourage them to expand that. We'd like to get 5 or 6 in the region, because we feel it's not just a City of Columbus need, it's a metro area need.
It's particularly helpful when you think about, we currently have one that has sporadic hours, and it's down by the 11th Avenue somewhere, but again, sporadic hours, it's not necessarily convenience. This will be a huge upgrade for the community. Can you talk a little bit more that, the mayor announced, and you in conjunction with that, going to doubling of recycling? When can residents expect that? Can you talk about, will it reduce demand as it relates to trash? Is that, one of the goals? And when should we expect to see that all take place?
Sure. Certainly, we expect to see a reduction in landfill material. That's the 25 to 40% that Steve mentioned. That is our largest impact to reach our climate action plan in the waste reduction area. So we absolutely expect to see that increase in reducing the landfill. Working with our contractors on that collection, we expect that to take place this summer of 2023.
Excellent. And then just talk about your work with illegal dumping in the alleyways, the work that you've been doing, obviously replacing the trash containers, utilizing the roving teams, that sort of thing. But could you talk a little bit more about what the impact has been, the results, and then where people can go for more information?
Certainly. As you know, we started that in 2020. We started working in crews, having illegal dumping crews go through the alleys. This budget expands that program, and we're going to add additional people working in there with extended hours and working into the evening and on weekends. So we're looking at like a Tuesday through Saturday shift with this proposed budget. The success of that, we are actually collecting less tonnage this year than we did 3 years ago and less than 2 years ago. And that's actually a success, because with the solid waste investigators doing the criminal and civil violations, we have seen the enforcement actually decrease the amount of illegal dumping. We track that on that hotspot that is available on the Public Service website, where you can actually go in and interactively look at your neighborhood, and there's a map that shows you the last time we were in your neighborhood, how many tonnage, what the tonnage year to date is, how many illegal tires have been collected, and also indicates any criminal or civil action that we've taken. So we're actually seeing our tonnages go down on illegal dumping, but that's a positive because through enforcement, we're seeing that people are learning to not illegally dump in our neighborhoods, and that goes hand in hand with the removal of our 300-gallon containers, because those act, as you know, for magnets for illegal dumping, because they have the capacity. They sit into the public right-of-way, and you can drive down an alley and utilize those illegally. So that's where we focused our enforcement, our cameras, and as we reduce those and put 90s in those neighborhoods, there'll be less opportunity for folks to illegally dump.
Thank you very much. That's all the questions I have. I appreciate the presentation. You guys have been a great partner, and we can look forward to continuing the relationship. In my haste to move this thing along, I did skip over somebody on accident. I certainly don't want to slight anybody, and I asked a question, but I didn't let you present. So, David Celebrezzi, if you could give your presentation on GreenSpot, I would certainly appreciate it.
Thank you, Council Member. And, I didn't have a really cool PowerPoint presentation, so it's totally understandable. I appreciate this opportunity, though, to talk about GreenSpot. It's a program, it's part of Sustainable Columbus, and it's the main program the city uses to reach the community on actions that they can take to live and operate more sustainably. We're membership-based, but it's free to join, free to be a member, and basically you make commitments to live more sustainably, and we have a menu of options that you choose from. In fact, some of the benefits of being a member are you can get up to a $50 rebate on a rain barrel, or off a rain barrel, a native tree or native plant. And if that's something that doesn't float your boat, we also have members taking tours of our landfill, of the wastewater treatment plant, one of the transfer stations. We've even gone out to a net zero building, and we've taken people out about half a mile into some high quality wetlands. So we try to do a little bit of everything on the sustainability front. Our members get a welcome letter from Mayor Ginther and an electronic dashboard in which they can track their sustainability journey. Now, in 2022, the program had a non-personnel budget of about $40,000. This covered our contract with JTRAC on the My GreenSpot dashboard and sign-up process, as well as some of the swag that we hand out that helps folks meet their sustainability goals. This is like reusable water bottles, water saver kits, et cetera. Also helped with some rebates on electric mowers for the lawnmower exchange program, as well as contracts for youth outreach in historically underserved communities. In 2022, we had about 1,600 new GreenSpot members join, about 16 organizational members, and that brought our total to over 24,000. With the GreenSpot Community Backyards program, it's one of our more popular programs. That's the rebate program I mentioned earlier. We gave out 643 rebates to residents that went through a workshop or took an online quiz to learn about stormwater threats and solutions. And I want to give a shout out real quick to Franklin Soil and Water Conservation District, who administered that aspect of GreenSpot. We've given presentations or had booths at over 36 events, including our opportunity neighborhoods. On the digital front, we continued our GreenSpot Conversation webinar series. We teamed up with Columbus Public Health, Franklin County Public Health, Lowe's Home Improvement, and Ace Iron and Metal on an electric mower rebate program where we got about 80 old polluting gas-powered mowers off of lawns. We continue our partnership with the Ohio Hispanic Coalition and the Ethiopian Tewahedo Social Services for youth outreach. We continued several social media campaigns, updated the My GreenSpot dashboard, and mailed out our new homeowner green guide to new homeowners, mainly in our opportunity neighborhoods. On the business side, we recognized 3 businesses that graduated at our sustainable business class. We also highlighted some of our Green Spotlight Award winners. We actually held a reunion for some of our past graduates. And we continue to upgrade the GreenSpot dashboard. We led the charge with the Urban Heat Island Mapping Project. Results of that will be released tomorrow. In 2023, we have a lot of really cool things planned, and they all circle around the Climate Action Plan. Big part of that is the community involvement, and that's why we'll be taking the lead on the Action 1.1, which is empowering a community of climate leaders. We have assembled a great team representing environmental groups, business, government, academia, disadvantaged groups, and residents. We'll be working in all areas of the city, but our focus will be in the opportunity neighborhoods. More to come on that program at a later date. We'll continue to support and amplify messages of sustainability, not only that come out of the city from each of the different departments, but also some of our nonprofit sustainability partners as well. And we'll continue to make upgrades to our e-dashboard as well. So I look forward to working with you and the other folks in the sustainability world. And with that, I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you again for your presentation. Certainly appreciate the relationship and the work that we are able to accomplish together. Appreciate that. Last but not least, I'm going to turn it over to Natural Resource and Asset Manager Tina Moan.
Good evening, Councilmember Remy. Thanks for the opportunity to come and highlight the Recreation and Parks Department, a portion of what we would consider highlights for our proposed $60 million budget. A few of the efforts specifically related to conservation and environmental, we would like to highlight the Urban Forestry Master Plan and provide some updates with respect to that. Specifically, this is our first year for implementation for the Urban Forestry Master Plan, for the 5-year plan in general. To date, we've completed or will have completed in December the street tree inventory, which is both city and county-wide. Along with that, we will have completed the citywide urban tree canopy assessment. Both of those documents will help with where we are today with respect to canopy coverage. We know we are 22% or below, and the goal for 2050 is 40%. So we have some work to do. Those two documents will help give us a baseline of where we are, where we need to go. Those will also help with where we're focusing our efforts, which dramatically will be within the 41 neighborhoods that we inventoried. We will be looking mostly for those neighborhoods that are under-canopied, underserved, and those will be the first neighborhoods that we will target in terms of plantings. A lot of the tree code, of the 2023 work will be focused on tree codes, both public and private. We plan to complete the tree code for the public aspect of it, and working with many of the colleagues in this room to have that completed by Q1 for 2023. And we're already underway with efforts for the private tree code, which we hope to have significant engagement in 2023. In 2023, we'll have 4 new positions with the proposed budget for our street tree, overall tree canopy, pruning crew, stump removal crew. They'll do assessments on the health and well-being of trees within our street trees, and even some efforts within city parks that we know we have some hazardous trees or potentially hazardous trees. We'll have about 3,000 to 6,000 in street tree planting coming out of the budget as well for 2023. That's just what we'll be doing in-house. Does not include any other support that we'll get from grant funding or any other offset costs. To highlight a little bit about our outdoor recreation and education components and our volunteerism, we have served 18 community centers with conservation efforts, and that includes almost 700 participants to accessing outdoors, picking up litter, debris, but also being involved in natural spaces that they wouldn't otherwise have opportunities. That includes opportunities at our Net Zero McKnight Outdoor Education Center, and also youth, teens around, and adults as well, getting around the city to help with the Climate Action Plan and implementing some of our programs that are specific to human and wildlife impacts from climate change. We've serviced over 12 schools with almost 1,300 field trips just across the city with our outdoor education and recreation programs. Some of those include blind archery, some other challenges with mobility classes that with respect to kayaking and canoeing. Also with volunteer efforts, we've had over 4,000 volunteers with almost 8,000 volunteer hours, and a lot of that is conservation projects such as invasive species removal, tree plantings. litter cleanup and debris cleanup throughout the parks, but also in some of our right-of-way areas, and again, working with some of our colleagues in refuse. A lot of the focus on some of the volunteerism is water pollution and cleaning up some of our waterways. Also, pollinator habitats. We have 36 pollinator spaces now, and a lot of that has to do with targeting some of our climate action plan goals, but also some of our goals within our department. We have the first Saturday of the month through April through October of every month. We go to different community centers and welcome different members of the community to participate in a volunteer event, depending upon the community center and the need there, working with the center managers and just with the community members and some of the area commissions, and come up with a volunteer event, and we target whatever that might be in the community. Specifically for our Sustainable Columbus and the efforts that we're working with DPU and all the other departments, we'd like to highlight with some of the work that we're doing with the Urban Forestry Master Plan, the Urban Heat Island, Dave mentioned that, is a big effort and one of our goals to help reduce. And a lot of that is getting done with the planting efforts, but also the net zero reduction. The goal that we have for 2030 as part of one of the 3 goals for the Urban Forestry Master Plan is to have a net loss for trees between now and 2030. That's the short-term goal for the UFMP, and it also, like I said, ties in nicely with the Sustainable Columbus efforts. And then in 2030, in 2050, like I mentioned, the 40% coverage is a goal that we have. So we're starting today. We've started when we started the implementation of the Urban Forestry Master Plan. That's a large effort that, like the challenges with refuse that Tim mentioned, we feel that tree canopy is also not just an effort within the city, but it's an effort that we have to work with other agencies, other sister cities to also help. A huge thing that we'd like to highlight is we've had a 50% reduction in this past year within our buildings. A lot of that is our climate control system that we've taken a lot of efforts to revamp and make sure that we're producing the amount of energy we need, but not overdoing that within our buildings. We've updated a lot of our HVAC systems. In the next 2 years, all 31 facilities will be transitioned to this new system as well. And the last thing to highlight is the nature preserves. We have 20 nature preserve management plans that will be completed this year, probably going into 2023, that will help us figure out how to better manage our nature preserves of the 20 nature preserves that we have. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much. You know, I've been pushing for additional staffing on the tree thing, so I'm ecstatic to see more of that. We've got such a backlog when it comes to forestry, and certainly as we've implemented this Urban Forestry Master Plan, it's critical that we get down to a point where if people need assistance that we can help almost on demand. I do have a question, you know, recognizing the historic disinvestment in land use patterns, zoning, and other factors, where it varies so widely across the city. And most of the time, the people that are hurt the worst are the ones that are in some of the most disadvantaged areas in the community. How is the Urban Forest Master Plan being intentional about ensuring equity across all neighborhoods?
Sure. That's a great question. There are 9 indices that we've identified within the Urban Forestry Master Plan to specifically highlight inequities. Families in poverty, educational attainment, merit in household income, percentage for non-white populations, asthma prevalence, COPD, mental health, property crime, and then violent crime. So those are the areas that we know from mapping data and, again, working with colleagues, that we can already highlight. And those are the areas, the opportunity neighborhoods that we talked about earlier, that will be identified, that have been identified, and that will start in using the information that we have from both of the city urban, the tree canopy study and the street tree inventory, and starting in those neighborhoods and addressing those specific goals.
just to give people an idea, if you think about down by the property room, where our police property room, that's one of the least canopied areas in the city. And what that means is that their temperatures on an average day, say it's 90 degrees, can be up to 8 degrees hotter than maybe I enjoy in my house with the trees that surround it. So it makes a big impact. And so when you think about people that struggle to pay their bills, electricity, et cetera, and maybe not even access to an air conditioner, it is a real concern and certainly a top priority for us to take investment in those areas. So thank you for that presentation. I do want to thank you personally for your work over the last year, navigating some kind of contentious issues that other departments weren't able to negotiate. And so you really stepped in and created an environment where everybody won. And so I personally appreciate that, and I know my colleagues do as well. So you deserve to be acknowledged for that. Thank you. I am now going to turn this over to Public Safety. And so first up, we have Director Robert Clark and then Deputy Director Dan Giangadella. I always struggle with that. Dan G. Director.
Safety Chair Remy, good afternoon. It is our pleasure to be with you today to discuss the priorities and progress of the Department of Public Safety. My colleagues who are with me today will discuss their respective 2023 budget initiatives and help answer any questions you may have. Present with me is Deputy Director Dan Giangardella, Police Chief Elaine Bryant, Fire Chief Jeffrey Happ, and Support Services Administrator Ken Kuntz. We truly appreciate the budget proposed to public safety by Mayor Ginther, as it represents the city's most important goals of investing in neighborhoods, as well as protecting life and property and improving the quality of life for all of Columbus. We are proud of our ongoing efforts to drive down violent crime, but have a keen understanding that this work is not done until everyone in every neighborhood feels safe. Toward that end, this budget proposal supports the work of our comprehensive neighborhood safety strategy. We are constantly looking for better, more responsive, more innovative ways to deliver public safety services to our residents. Our alternative response programs are evident of this commitment. Programs like REACT, SPARK, the Mobile Crisis Response Team, and the Right Response Unit are producing impressive results that we have detailed for you in previous public hearings. These programs ensure the right response at the right time to our residents in need, while also freeing up personnel to focus on violent crime and life-threatening emergencies. We have a sharp focus on building our ranks to support the essential work being done by our women and men. With robust recruiting efforts and additional police and fire classes, we will ease the burden carried by our officers and firefighters currently. The recruit classes in the last 2 years have been some of the most diverse we've seen, helping our safety forces better reflect the community we serve every day. This includes pathways for our city's next generation of first responders to connect with careers in public safety. Programs like the Public Safety Corps and the cadet programs are entry points for diverse populations to access opportunities to serve with us. We are utilizing the latest technology to give our frontline personnel the resources they need to best serve our city. Our deployment of new body-worn cameras and cruiser cameras is ongoing and extremely ahead of schedule, thanks to the funding provided by this council in the aggressive work of our Department of Technology. This technology strengthens our commitment to trust, transparency, and renewed relationships with our community. As you've heard me say many times, our women and men doing a very difficult job deserve the very best that we can provide them in service to our residents. We are grateful for your continued support as we work every day to make Columbus safer and stronger city. Now I'd like to turn the mic over to Deputy Director Dan Giangardella, who will provide you with greater detail and context to the introductory points that I've already shared with you.
Thank you, Director. Safety Chair Ramey, good afternoon, and thank you again for allowing us to provide some information on the Public Safety 2023 operating budget. The proposed budget totals $707,271,574 in general funds and $1.57 million in E911 911 funds for a total operating budget of just under $709 million, which is approximately $45 million, or 6.7% more than the original 2022 public safety budget. The budget allocates $371.4 million for police, $297.9 million for fire, $24.6 million for sports services, and $15 million for safety administration. Major funding items and changes in the Safety Department budget in 2023 include $18.9 million across multiple city departments, including public health, recreation and parks, finance and management, to support the comprehensive neighborhood safety strategy program, including $375 million for community crime patrol, $50,000 for the Central Ohio Crime Stoppers, $2.93 million for Safe Streets Initiative, $840,000 for ShotSpotter, $300,000 for neighborhood safety camera support, $250,000 for the TAPS program, $150,000 for the Kennedy Project, $2.9 million to support the body-worn cameras for police, $1 million for neighborhood violence intervention, which includes contracts and grants to Columbus agencies, and $200,000 in supplies and services to support the Wellness Center. In addition to that, we have, hopefully our chiefs are happy with this, we have 3 police recruit classes that are proposed, 50 in July, 70 in September, and 50 in December for police, 3 classes in fire, 50 in June, 25 in September, and 50 in December. We also have, again, funded cadet classes. Actually, we can look at the graphs here. This would be police, and you can see the funding, the projected funding, projected where we'll end up in 2023. So this would include the not only hiring of officers, but also we anticipate some additional what I want to call them, transfers in that we had this year from other city departments. Hopefully we'll be at 1,907 officers when we end this year, which would be just about as high a number as we've had in a very long time. Similarly with fire, obviously you can see from the graph there that if our projections hold and we hire the 3 classes that we anticipate, that we will be at our highest number of firefighters ever in the history of Columbus. In addition to that, each of the departments will continue the cadet program. We'll have 20 cadets participate each in those programs. And as the director mentioned, those have been very successful for us, and we'll provide some stats here in a few minutes to show the successes of those programs. Also, the overtime budgets for police and fire, $13 million for police, $12 million for fire, again, projected in the 2023 budget. There are also funds, as I mentioned, in other city departments in the general fund that will support public safety initiatives and address some of the community health. A majority of these funds are allocated to the Comprehensive Neighborhood Safety Program, but also the Right Response Unit. We have $204 million unallocated presently in 2022 carryover funding, plus an additional $2.6 million in new funding in citywide accounts to continue the implementation of the initiatives and safety reforms. We also have $2.4 million also for the Right Response Unit in the Public Safety Department. This is in addition to what's already funded. Thank you for your call from our hearing we had back, I think it was beginning of November, between the Health Department and Public Safety. We have $4 to $4.5 million that is already funded within the budget. So this would be additional funds based on anticipated expansion or where we would work to go in collaboration with public health to expand the current programs that we have. Replacement of vehicles for public safety. And here we're talking about what we consider light vehicles, police cruisers and those type of units, not fire apparatus. Those are capital expenditures. But replacement of vehicles for public safety are typically funded by finance and management. We work with fleet management each year to determine the priority and number of vehicles to be replaced. The total funding for vehicles will be determined at a later date and work consultation with finance. For instance, in 2022, we have 85 vehicles that we plan to purchase for police, which included 76 MARC units and 12 vehicles for fire. As both chiefs can attest, and the director, there have obviously been some supply chain issues with vehicle deliveries. We're still waiting on a significant number of vehicles actually from our 2021 buy plan. But some good news on that front is we're beginning to receive some deliveries of cruisers from our order in 2021. Other significant funding in the director's office not referenced earlier, $1.4 million for the jail contract, $846,000 for Franklin County Emergency Management Agency, $275,000 for Capital Area Humane, and $100,000 for police and fire recruitment activities. The Support Services Division, sometimes referred to as sort of the third division of the Public Safety Department, their mission is responsible for a variety of critical functions, including 911 operations. Their budget is $24.6 million, which includes about $1.6, as I said earlier, in E911 funds. That's about 4% more than they had in 2022. Some significant contracts for support services include $560,000 for the CAD annual maintenance, $995,000 for the 800 megahertz radio services, $164,000 for annual maintenance to support the 911 phone system, $280,000 for indigent burial services, $327,000 for 3 new assistant manager positions, and $250,000 for computer replacements. In the Division of Police, again, $374.1 million, or approximately 5% more than 2022. Besides the additional classes referenced earlier, the budget will support 1,971 officers and 269 civilian positions. In addition, the division anticipates the hiring of 25 sworn lateral transfers in 2023. Other major funding items for police, $1.8 million for our towing contract, $10.3 million for fuel and maintenance for vehicles, $3.9 million for uniforms, and $1 million for 17 additional civilian positions, including 7 crime lab personnel, 4 impound lot personnel, 4 public records unit and telephone recording unit personnel. The Division of Fire's 2023 proposed budget totals $297.9 million, or almost 9% more than 2022. Again, besides the additional classes referenced earlier, this will support over 1,700 firefighters and 50 civilians. Significant funding items for fire include $2.7 million for uniforms and turnout gear, $1.8 million for the EMS medical supplies, $1.5 million for EMS billing contract, $160,000 for distance learning, and $10 million for fuel and maintenance services. With respect to equity, the Public Safety Department is involved with a number of initiatives to support racial and gender equity in our community. The Teen and Police Service Academy Mentoring Program, otherwise known as TAPS, is an 11-week program involving middle school youth designed to help improve youth safety by teaching conflict resolution, avoiding sexual exploitation, and prevent bullying. The program also helps reduce social distance between themselves and law enforcement. The Public Safety Corps program is designed for youth 14 to 20 years of age interested in a career in law enforcement. This is the former Police Explorers program with emphasis on physical fitness, civil rights, respect for the rule of law. The program allows individuals to ride along with an officer and have weekly interaction and hands-on training. The cadet programs for both police and fire attract high school age youth adults to Columbus seeking a career in law enforcement or the fire services. Both programs have been a pipeline of diversity that provides a paid internship designed to instruct and expose the cadets to academy training and the rigors of becoming a uniformed officer or firefighter. To date, there have been over 24 cadets who have joined the public safety ranks since 2019 as officers or firefighters. The City of Columbus is bringing back the Police Athletic League to provide youth sports opportunities while being mentored by police officers. This program will be phased in and staffed eventually by police and civilian volunteers. The divisions of police and fire have a number of community programs that they participate in and or support, such as the police community liaison officers, the National Night Out participation, citizen ride-alongs, citizen police academy, CPR and first aid training classes, fire safety education, the Fire Safe House program and smoke alarm distributions, et cetera. Police and fire recruitment efforts have an emphasis on seeking candidates that have diverse backgrounds that have a passion to serve the community. Indeed, the class of recruits for both police and fire over the past couple years have been some of the most diverse. For example, I have some numbers here for 2021. The June 2021 class for police had 53% diversity. The police December 2021 class had 47% diversity. The fire June 21 class had 49% diversity, and the fire December 2021 class had 30%. Public safety is also one of the few departments with its own EEO compliance officer, as well as a newly created Office of Diversity and Inclusion in the Division of Fire. Finally, public safety fiscal staff works with the Office of Diversity and Inclusion and the Construction Management Office to attend and conduct vendor outreach sessions, especially for large capital improvement projects, such as the recent information sessions we have held for design on Police Substation 19 in the Real-Time Crime Center. Also, I'd like to thank Echo Dennis, the Assistant Director for Fiscal and Public Safety. He and his staff are putting a lot of the information together and working with the Department of Finance on the 2023 budget. This concludes my comments for the 2023 budget for safety, and I now have each of the chiefs, as well as Support Service Administrator Kuntz, offer some brief remarks about their budgets. Thank you.
Thank you. Safety Chair Remy, Safety Director. The Division of Police has underwent several changes throughout the past years and has implemented several new programs aimed at strengthening the public's trust, solving crime, and improving our employees' mental wellness. The division continues to implement recommendations from the Matrix Consulting Group and the Columbus Community Safety Advisory Commission. To date, we have implemented over 71% of the Matrix Group recommendations and over 67% of the Safety Advisory Commission recommendations, with many more recommendations in progress. My goal is, with additional staffing budgeted for 2023, many of the in-progress changes will be completed. The division successfully completed several operations throughout 2022. These operations included Safe Streets, 2 Operation Wheels Down, 4 Operation Unities, 3 Operation Broken Windows, and 1 Operation Turn Up the Heat, were all proactive policing efforts aimed at responding to our residents' concerns throughout the city. They were aimed at reducing violent crime and improving the quality of life issues our residents were facing in their respective neighborhoods. My vision for next year is to continue these operations, expand upon them, and continue to work in partnership with the community. Although our ShotSpotter program has not been expanded since 2021, it continues to be a great asset to the division. Year to date, our personnel have responded to 4,541 ShotSpotter alerts, with a total of 17,762 gunshots being detected. Currently, the program only covers approximately 12 square miles of the city. The goal is to expand this program into more areas, which will allow for our personnel to respond to the detections of gunfire quicker than waiting on a call for service. Recruiting new officers has been a strong focus for our division in 2022. As stated, in 2023, another 3 recruit classes totaling 170 new recruits are planned. The commitment to funding our academy classes will increase our ability to enhance our staffing levels and provide a better service to the residents of our city. For the second year in a row, the division hosted a Women in Policing seminar. The seminar brought several area departments together to help spark a conversation to increase the number of women who enter law enforcement. Due to these efforts, in 2022, the 137th recruit class had the highest number of females in any academy class, being 16. Our cadet program also continues to be a success. In 2022, 6 Columbus Police cadets entered the academy as recruits. In 2023, 3 cadets have already been identified as potential candidates that may qualify to enter as the Columbus Police recruit. But it's not just about sworn personnel. We are happy that you have included the ability to hire more professional employees to work within our division. Their expertise and experience will help us cover positions in public records, the impound lot, and our crime lab. These positions will increase the services we are able to provide our residents. Working in conjunction with 21st Century Policing Solutions, the Department of Justice, 65 of our supervisors attended training given by the Collaborative Reform Initiative Technical Assistance Center. We will continue to work to allow more of our supervisors and managers to attend these trainings. We continue to train our personnel in responding to mental health calls for service. Currently, 56% of our patrol officers are trained in crisis intervention. Year-to-date, our personnel have responded to over 1,700 calls for service related to mental health. I'm happy to report that 70% of those calls for service are receiving a response from members of our Mobile Crisis Response Unit or a CIT-trained patrol officer. I will continue to see that crisis intervention training is offered to our personnel on a regular basis to ensure properly trained officers are responding to the growing needs of mental health calls for service. Over the past year, we've held several events throughout the city aimed at strengthening our relationships with the residents we serve. Those events included a Valentine's Day dinner and dance with the residents of a local senior living facility, our first ever trunk or treat where we paired with the Division of Fire and handing out candy to over 2,000 children, our second annual turkey giveaway where we passed out over 700 turkeys to residents at 6 different locations throughout the city, and our most recent event, the second annual Crammer Cruiser Toy Drive, where we collected toys that we are able to disperse to families of homicide victims and to financially struggling families throughout Columbus. We have already scheduled these events to continue next year, and we hope to make them even more successful than what they have already been. Beyond the physical events of our public relations team engages our residents throughout social media on several different platforms. This has been successful in allowing us to receive crime-solving tips from the community, as well as sharing positive stories with our residents. My goal is to increase the staffing in our public relations unit so we can continue to respond not only to requests from the media in a timely fashion, but increase our engagement with the community through social media. This year, the division underwent a reorganization of some of our personnel. Some of these moves included moving the personnel who serve on federal task force under one bureau. This will allow for better communication amongst all task force units and will increase our interagency cooperation with our federal partners. Our homicide unit was reorganized to allow for our detectives to be split into teams and allow them to all work during first shift hours and respond to homicides on an on-call basis. These changes, along with a change in the way we track closure rates, have led to an increase in the unit's solvability. This year, year-to-date, we have 130 homicides. In 2021, this time last year, we had 192. And in 2020, this time last year, we had 158. That shows a almost 30% reduction in our homicide rates. We've also solved 107 homicides this year, 85 in this year and 22 from previous years. We've also staffed our cold case unit to assist in solving cases that are still outstanding. Our detectives continue to work tirelessly each and every day to bring closure to the victim's family. While I am thankful for their work, I would also like to thank the countless members of the community again who have stepped up and provided our detectives with the information necessary to close these cases. We are also in the process of creating a 6th zone within the city. The addition of the Zone 6 will redraw boundaries to ensure neighborhoods are located within the same patrol zone with hopes of reducing response times. Just recently, we opened the Wellness Center. Currently, 1 lieutenant, 1 sergeant, and 2 officers staff the center on the police side. They work closely in conjunction with members from the Division of Fire, police chaplains, and EAP staff to provide support to our personnel in the area of mental health. First responders are constantly exposed to critical incidents involving death and devastation. Multiple studies have shown that personnel are more likely to die by suicide than in the line of duty. This center allows for our personnel to attend various support groups, have critical incident debriefs, and use services provided by EAP in a confidential manner. My vision for this center is to increase the staffing level from the Division of Police to allow for 24/7 staffing of the center. That way, no matter what day or what time it is, our personnel have access to the center staff to ensure none of them become a victim of suicide. In conclusion, I would like to thank the mayor, safety director, city council, the Division of Police and the community, because none of this would be possible without their support. And thank you for providing that level of service our residents deserve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Council Safety Chair Manuel Remy, for giving me this opportunity. With respect to the internationally accredited Division of Fire, the Division of Fire is composed of 5 bureaus, each of which is focused on meeting the goals and objectives outlined by the Council and the Mayor's Office. The Fire Prevention Bureau inspection program has continued to show great results. This has resulted in improvements in the number of the quality of fire prevention inspections performed. These efficiencies are needed given that the city is adding 40 to 60 new buildings inspections monthly. In 2022, we inspected over 32,000 occupancies and investigated over 1,100 fires. This growth, while exciting and dynamic for the city, does create expanding workload challenges. The Bureau will look towards expansion and use of new technology and processes to meet the growing demand. Through community engagement and outreach with the smoke detector program, we continue to make families safer by installing smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms in neighborhoods, homes throughout the city. We also work with the building department to improve our process, allowing customers to more easily apply and obtain inspections and permits. The Division of Fire Emergency Service Bureau continues to see the expansion of our EMS responsibilities on the daily challenges faced during the COVID-19 pandemic. Since then, daily the division responds to an average of over 500 calls for service, with the number of incidents increasing over the previous years. In 2022, emergency service focused training on improving the response capabilities of our technical rescue teams. Emergency service also participated in a large-scale multi-agency preparedness exercise. The Support Service Bureau has started the design process for New Station 36 in the far northeast corner of the city. This continues the commitment the city and the Division of Fire has shown to provide timely and effective EMS and fire response by providing a response time of less than 8 minutes to 91% of all calls for service. This station will have an emphasis on EMS/fire safety, firefighter safety. The station is designed to decrease the risk associated with cancer exposures our members face related to the toxic environments associated with firefighting. The Division of Fire's Recruitment Office continues to promote opportunities to become Columbus firefighters with an emphasis on minorities, shifting to virtual efforts and new marketing strategies. The Division of Fire continuous goal is to reflect the diversity of our community throughout our workforce. We expanded the use of social media and utilized the text to apply process. This provides immediate engagement with any prospective recruit by just having them join CFD to 888-777. The Division of Fire created a new office titled Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The mission will be to identify barriers that affect DEI within the division and how we deliver services to the community. In addition, they will assist with developing strategies to mitigate any potential barriers and to promote inclusion amongst the division. The Fire Cadet Program has continued to show great results with a 4th cohort of 20 cadets beginning their journey in December 2022. Our partnership with stakeholders has been invaluable in expanding our reach to connect with the community, and the results are being realized through these efforts. Our goal is to hire qualified individuals who reflect the community we serve, and all efforts have been devoted to more than doubling the level of diversity in the division by 2026. Mental health support for our first responders is a high priority. The Division of Fire opened the member support wellness in 2022. The 2023 budget will support our engagement with our first responders to maintain a resilient workforce. In 2022, we continued our focus on the opiate epidemic by utilizing EMS to reduce deaths due to overdose. Our rapid response emergency addiction and crisis team, REACT, was active in assisting individuals struggling with substance use disorder. This team comprised the Division of Fire paramedics, CIT-trained Columbus police officers, and social workers who specialize in addiction treatment, has become a model being replicated across the nation. In addition, we want to acknowledge the support the mayor's office, city council, city attorney, Franklin County, and the city and county health departments. This additional funding through the budget, as well as grants, have allowed this program to make a daily impact on the crisis, being a bridge to treatment and recovery. This cooperation has also led to this unit receiving multiple grants to support this program and has allowed this unit to be an example of the best practices being copied by cities across the country. The success of multi-agency, multidiscipline REACT program has led to the creation of specialized program assessing resource connectivity. That's the SPARK team. The team pairs a paramedic and a social worker from Central Ohio Area Aging and Agency on Aging, or better known as COAAA, to work with the medically fragile and vulnerable residents who have become over-reliant on EMS. These secondary response teams provide assessments and navigation connecting individuals with the resource that improve their health, capital, and reduce their EMS encounters and hospital ER visits. The SPARK team's success has resulted in an approximately 30% reduction in EMS calls for individuals they have assisted over the past year. The success of the REACT and SPARK program co-responder teams have provided a solid foundation as which we develop and implement the alternate response project. The initial pilot program launched in 2021, which embedded a social worker from Columbus Public Health and Emergency Communications Center, has shown great results in directing 911 callers to the most appropriate available resources. The funding allocated in this year's budget will allow for expansion of the alternate response project as new co-response teams are developed and implemented, along with expanding our partnerships with the Columbus Public Health and the community-based mental health teams. The Division of Fire continues its partnership with Ohio Health, Mount Carmel Health Systems, and the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center to provide the state-of-the-art life-saving care to stroke victims before they arrive at the hospital. The mobile stroke unit is a specialized vehicle designed to diagnose and provide definitive care to victims of stroke in the field. This is important because a stroke can rapidly damage the brain if left untreated, making every minute count. When the unit arrives on scene, a team of trained stroke care professionals virtually connect the Ohio Health stroke neurologist. A CT scan helps determine the cause of the stroke, and the neurologist determines the appropriate treatment. The patient is taken to one of 3 comprehensive stroke centers in Central Ohio: the Ohio State University, Mount Carmel Hospital, or Ohio Health Riverside Methodist Hospital. Next bureau, the Division of Fire Training is preparing for and appreciates the opportunity to train an additional 125 recruits planned in the 2023 budget. These additional recruits, firefighters, will help us to not only replenish the loss of the personnel due to separation and retirement, but will also prepare for the expansion and promising existing programs such as fire prevention, cadets, SPARK, REACT, and the alternate response in 2023. Additionally, this increase in staffing will allow for future expansions as new fire stations come online in the following years. Before closing, I would like to thank the mayor, safety director, and city council for the continued support of the fire division and public safety. Over the past year, a lot of great work that fire and police have accomplished is a result of your effort to support public safety response to some of our most vulnerable residents. The collaboration and teamwork between fire and police have resulted in innovative solutions that provide life-saving care. I would like to thank Chief of Police Elaine Bryant and her officers who are carrying Narcan and saving lives every day. The Columbus police officers who are trained and equipped with AEDs and providing life-saving CPR and medical care prior to EMS arriving, which has resulted in residents surviving sudden cardiac arrest. Although our jobs may seem completely different, we have one common goal, and that is to provide help for everyone who calls 911. This year's proposed budget builds upon these collaborations and a step forward towards redefining public safety. The Division of Fire is proud of our accomplishments in 2022, and with your support, we will continue to focus on our mission of providing timely and effective fire and emergency medical services. Thank you, Council.
Chair Ramey, good afternoon. The division's proposed 2023 budget is $24.6 million, which is an increase of 4.1% from 2022. The Division of Support Services utilizes these funds to provide technical support to the divisions of police and fire and coordinates emergency responses to the community through the 911 Emergency Communications Center. The division also issues various types of licenses and permits, provides license enforcement, and provides equity between the buyers and sellers in the marketplace through our weights and measures section. Thus far, in 2022, the license section has issued 3,000 licenses and permits, in addition to processing another 13,000 alarm permits. The license section inspects and licenses over 40 types of businesses, such as food trucks, taxi cabs, street vendors, hotel motels, commercial sales, and charitable solicitations, to name a few. The largest license growth is short-term rental licenses, of which 1,100 have been issued during 2022. The license section registered over 700 bicycles within the community, as well as student bicycles at The Ohio State University. The license section also processed 456 indigent burial applications. The weights and measures section conducted over 15,000 device inspections through the end of November. Weights and measures also completed nearly 12,000 retail scan price verifications, finding 1,072 mispriced items. Of those mispriced items, 80% were overcharging consumers and 20% were undercharging consumers. Weights and measures issued 151 violation warnings related to these inspections. Other types of inspections conducted include laundromat timers, heavy-duty commercial scales, car washes, retail food scales, taxi cab meters, and fuel pumps. The weights and measures section received and investigated 54 consumer complaints this year, primarily focused on fuel pumps. The Emergency Communications Center is responsible for supporting and coordinating police and fire responses in the community. The Emergency Communications Center processed nearly 1.1 million emergency and non-emergency calls through November of 2022. The division has placed great emphasis on the hiring of dispatchers and call takers for the call center. Overall, 53 911 call center employees have been hired in the last 24 months. The Division of Support Services also manages 3 IT support teams dedicated to providing technical services for the 911 Center and our safety forces. These teams include the 911 phone support section, the CAD support section, and the 800 megahertz radio support section. The 911 support section is tasked with maintaining all of the telephone communications within the 911 Center. This section also hosts 911 phone services for outside jurisdictions, which include Franklin County, John Glenn International Airport, Grandview Heights, Grove City, Reynoldsburg, and The Ohio State University. The 911 phone support section has successfully processed a combined 2.1 million emergency and non-emergency calls and 2,700 text message sessions within our phone system. The CAD support section is responsible for maintaining the computer-aided dispatching services for the Division of Police and Fire. The team maintains 24-hour service to the CAD system, servers, applications, databases, and is responsible for maintaining several other critical safety interfaces and programs. This includes maintaining 370 mobile data computers installed in police and fire vehicles. The 800 megahertz radio support section is responsible for maintaining 7 radio tower systems that primarily serve our safety forces. The team also provides radio services for 50 other agencies within Franklin County. There are over 7,000 subscribers to the radio service network, and the system has processed over 8.6 million push-to-talk transmissions on the network this year. Finally, the Division of Support Service collaborates with Columbus Public Health, Columbus Fire, and Columbus Police to support the alternative response and the right response unit. The RRU is presently housed at the 911 Emergency Communications Center and operates from 8 a.m. to midnight, Monday through Friday. The unit is staffed by 911 dispatchers and Columbus Health clinicians. The RRU aims to triage incoming mental health-related calls and develop specialized responses by connecting residents to clinicians and community resources. The Right Response Unit has shown great promise, and we are excited to continue growing this project, and I will be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, you guys did such an amazing job. I don't have any questions for you, but I do want to acknowledge, the Police Chief Bryant, your work coming into the community and forging the relationships that you've forged within the community itself has been nothing but outstanding. The opportunity to change culture within the division has been, almost blows my mind where you've gone and been able to take the division at this point. And so we owe you a debt of gratitude for that work. Chief Happ, the same with you. The work that you're doing within the fire division of fire has been outstanding, and wanted to acknowledge that. But also Ken Kuntz. I mean, it's been such a breath of fresh air to see your leadership and administration over there, and so many things that you cover that people don't even really realize the work that is within the Department of Public Safety. So thank you for that. And of course, the leadership under Director Clark. We appreciate all the work that you're doing as we move towards, I know it's a team effort, but certainly your leadership as we, announced earlier this year, the Real-Time Crime Center and the work that's going into that to make sure that we are a top city when it comes to, technology and that sort of thing. So want to acknowledge you and thank you for that. We have 9 public speakers. I'm going to tell you that we are going to have a hard stop at 3 minutes. There is no room for error. So if you do not complete your testimony, feel free to submit it as part of your, submit it to us. We'll definitely take written testimony, but I will have a hard stop, and there's nothing I can do about it. We've got a hearing right after ours. And so I want to be clear about that. I'm going to announce who's speaking and who's up next. If you're up next, please come up and stand by the podium so you're ready to go. We are on that tight of a schedule, but I appreciate your understanding, and so we're going to move into the public comment section at this time. Our first speaker is Stephen David, and then Helen Ann Sweeney. As you approach, welcome back to council, Mr. David. As you approach, please state your name, any organization that you're representing, and your address, and go from there. You're up.
Awesome. Thank you, Chair Remy, for this opportunity to testify today. My name is Stephen David. I'm a social worker living on the south side in Marion Village and a member of the Columbus Safety Collective. We appreciate this ongoing conversation around policing alternatives in our city and the amount of attention that council is dedicated to this issue. The Safety Collective is asking that City Council allocate $10 million in the public safety operating budget to launch a non-police emergency response program for our city. Everyone in Columbus deserves a public safety system they can rely on and trust. The people of our city have asked for this specifically in the form of non-police emergency response. We asked for it in 2021 when council collected over 4,000 responses to their Reimagining Public Safety survey, where 85% of residents were somewhat or very comfortable with the city utilizing non-police teams to subsume a range of law enforcement functions currently performed by police. The Safety Collective has provided you with a program blueprint that we have discussed with community members in conversations on every corner of our city. And once more tonight, you will hear from several of our neighbors, this is why we have these 9 speakers tonight, about why this program is so essential for us to develop right now. The people have asked for this, and we are asking you now to fund it. We heard in the hearings on the city's alternative infrastructure last month that Columbus is doing better than other cities. We unfortunately think that this is a false assertion at this time. While call diversion programs like the RRU and follow-up mechanisms like Spark will be important parts of the suite of non-police alternatives, and we are happy to see additional funding for them in the mayor's operating budget proposal, the critical piece of our alternative infrastructure is currently missing. Other cities are far ahead of us in building out this piece of their non-police alternatives, including other cities here in Ohio that you'll hear about today. People need to know that they can call for help and access non-police teams to assist their neighbors without putting them at risk or at risk of harm or entrapment in the criminal legal system. This is a critical component, and this is our chance to invest in it now. Much of the conversations around this issue that we've had with your offices has been around getting it right. We believe that getting it right means choosing to lead in this space and committing to what the people are asking for. We do not simply want to add another program here. We want steps towards a public safety system that the people can depend on and trust. Council should use this opportunity to be a national leader and build upon the successes we have seen in programs like these across the country. Build in accountability from the start with a paid advisory board, actively recruit, incentivize, and provide pathways for leadership for residents in our highest need neighborhoods, and pilot the program at scale so we can do scientifically rigorous evaluation and let data drive our future funding decisions. If 911 was built for house fires and heart attacks, let's commit the money for a system that is built for humanity and the potential of healing. Let's do it in a way that lifts up our neighbors and provides them a pathway to care for their own communities. Let's rise to the occasion we have, and the time now is to do it now. Let's not wait one more day. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for your continued advocacy. We look forward to working with you in the future. And of course, I'm excited on Monday to introduce legislation in support of the mayor to create the Office of Violence Prevention underneath the mayor's office. And so we've been working very closely with the mayor on this initiative and certainly agree with you on the right response aspect of it. So thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you, Councilmember.
Next up, we have Helen Ann Sweeney. Our speaker after that is Professor Leah Beavis. Excuse me.
My name is Helen Ann Sweeney. I am speaking on behalf of BREAD. BREAD supports the Columbus Public Safety Collective's request to allocate $10 million to implement an alternative response team. We support this request because law enforcement officers are overburdened with responsibilities that they are ill-equipped to manage. They have received minimal training on how to handle and interact with those having a mental health crisis and an overdose event, and cannot provide the necessary follow-up services. This initiative will relieve law enforcement of that responsibility to respond and manage situations that are beyond their ability. BREAD urges the city to develop and implement this infrastructure by the end of the upcoming year. During this time, responsibilities of responding to and managing behavioral health crisis should be transitioned from law enforcement to crisis response teams. When developing this infrastructure, the following core components should be considered. First, the system should follow culturally competent best practices to treat and care for individuals in the least restrictive environment. Two, the crisis response team should be available in all police zones on a 24/7 basis. These teams should be comprised of crisis responders, trained medical personnel, and peer supporters. Three, the crisis team should handle follow-up care coordination, which should occur within 24 to 48 hours of the call. Four, the system should have a standardized dispatch protocol so that dispatchers can determine objectively whether the police, fire department, and/or crisis responders should handle the call. All dispatchers and crisis responders should be trained in this protocol. Five, an advisory committee comprised of Columbus citizens should be formed to oversee the program. Six, each team should have appropriate equipment, including training and screening tools, harm and reduction strategies, and proper referral protocols. Seven, the infrastructure should include community outreach staff to build relations with the community, Franklin County Adam H. Board, and providers. Finally, the various crisis programs, such as REACT, should be included in this infrastructure so that citizens can access these programs efficiently and effectively. Thank you for your consideration in this manner.
Thank you very much for your testimony this evening. Thank you. Professor Beavis, and then Raven Loaiza.
Hi, thank you for your time, and good to see you again, Councilmember Remy. So I'd like to sort of double down on the point that Steve was making, which is that I think there's a lot of confusion here, hopefully not within council, but in the sort of broader space of civil servants as well as in the community here about what is being done and what is not being done when it comes to alternative response for mental health crises or otherwise in Columbus. And I'd like to start by just defining what cities are doing generally, like what are the options that are out there in the United States across, Columbus and other areas. One is call diversion programs. Two is first response, where police co-respond with non-police officers. 3 is non-police response programs that deliver first response to crises with people who are not police officers. And 4 is teams that conduct follow-up, not in a first response capacity, but after a crisis, in the days and weeks following a crisis. Now, call diversion. We have that. We have the right response program, and we think that's great. Like Columbus Safety Collective really supports that. We'd like to see it probably expanded, and I think to begin with, I'd like to see it evaluated. You know, it's there, and that's good, and it's making names for you, but I think if you really want to make sure that that's making a difference in people's lives, you should be evaluating that properly with quantitative and qualitative methods. Second, we have the co-response program, the MCR program. Again, as Steve said, we really think that it's probably a good idea to expand that, but also you should be evaluating that. You should be really asking whether it is working or not. I am actually working, funded by Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, to do that, and I frankly find it disappointing that outsiders needed to come in and do that without having any sort of input from the city council or the structure around public safety. Also, follow-up. We have a couple of programs that are being very widely spoken about that do follow-up. That's the REACT and the SPARK team. But the reality is these programs are tiny. I myself am not even entirely sure how big they are, because in conversations, I think public safety has been fairly evasive in naming that size or any plans to expand. But my understanding is that both of these programs have like a handful of people that are working for them. That's really not enough to make a difference. So you guys are naming that as something that you have, but the reality is I don't think that's making a difference in people's lives, and you need to scale that up so that you can meet what other cities are doing. And then last, a non-police response program. This is something that a number of cities across the US have, but it's not something that we have yet in Columbus at all. As Steve said, we'd not only like to see you deliver this as a brand new program, hopefully around $10,000 program, and we gave you, the size that we'd like to see it and evaluation, but then we'd like to see it rigorously evaluated so that we can really check that this program is making people's lives better over time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the insight. We will continue to report out, we held 2 alternative response hearings last year. We will continue to do that into 2023. Take a lot of things that you said and provide better answers for you. But the work is being done. We will report out and get more clarity surrounding that at our next hearing regarding that. So
And we will come back with a ballot initiative if it's not funded within a year.
understood.
Looking forward to it.
Raven Loaiza, then Joel Miller.
Good afternoon. My name is Raven. I'm the City of Dayton's Mediation Response Coordinator. I coordinate a current alternative emergency response program similar to what the Safety Coalition is proposing. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about the program so that you know it's also working in other cities around the state of Ohio as well as the nation. So as I said, we're with the City of Dayton. We're funded by the City of Dayton, and we respond to low emergent 911 and police calls for the city. We respond to calls such as neighbor disputes, barking dogs, parking complaints, disorderly subjects, calls for peace officers, well checks, both acute and non-acute, and several other things. And we continue to expand as we continue with our efforts. We have been on the streets since May 23rd of this year, so about 7 months under our belt. We're not even at full capacity yet, and we've responded to over 1,500 calls for service. As you know, or may or may not know, across the nation there are several different things, and some of the benefits of programs such as ours as a better fit for nonviolent disputes. We address underlying issues so we don't get repeated calls to the same address. We listen, support, and kind of work with folks. And then it also allows our officers to spend less time on those nonviolent, allows officer morale to increase when they're not overworked, and also allows times for our officers to engage more in community engagement and positive police communication rather than what is currently sometimes in our political climate. Our program developed out of after police reform initiatives after the murder of George Floyd. We are not a defund the police program. In fact, we collaborate very well. We respond in place of police to those calls. We're on the same computer and radio system as our local police and fire. there. We collaborate. They call us to the scene if needed, but initially we respond primarily for that. We've had lots of successes, things such as a loitering call, which would be a lower priority call for our police department. We engaged with the person within 15 minutes. Usually that would be a 2-hour wait. Engaged with the person that was on the bench, spoke to them, asked a few more questions, realized that they had been sexually assaulted, and were able to connect them to not only EMS, but then the hospital. We've had neighbor complaints that are repeated out of certain neighborhoods, repeated. And we've been able to address the underlying issues, and we also provide follow-up and case management. I'm always open to conversation or questions to support the city of Columbus if they should want to take on this endeavor. Thank you.
Before you leave, got a couple questions. I don't think there's anybody in the public safety department, by the way, that would argue that we need to move to this type, and especially the police chief. I mean, we don't have the manpower to tackle some of the bigger issues on a consistent basis. So I've even talked about, with her about traffic accidents, where today we tell people to go get it, make a report online. The online system rarely works or doesn't work well, and they get frustrated and they really want somebody to come out. And so could that be civilianized, for instance? But I want to ask a question. What's your staffing level right now?
Currently, now we're a much smaller city than the city of Columbus. Currently, we have 8 responders, and our police chief would like to see us up to 20, but we have to work our way that. So currently, we have 8.
And what type of budget did you initially, what were you established at?
$1.2 million.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Joel Miller and then Steve Stein.
Thanks, Chair Ramey. Joel Miller, I live in Northwest Columbus, pastor of Columbus Mennonite Church in Clintonville, which is a member of BRED. I'm also a member of the Columbus Safety Collective. As a pastor, I think a lot about myth. By myth, I don't mean stories that aren't true, stories that didn't really happen, but rather stories that are always true, stories that keep happening. Myths are foundational stories that tell us who we are as human beings and how the world works. Myths are powerful. Some myths stretch us toward beautiful possibilities, like the biblical story of the Hebrew slaves delivered out of bondage in Egypt. Here, the Creator is a force of liberation, siding with the vulnerable, inviting everyone into a new kind of community based on mercy, love, and justice. Some myths are downright destructive. The myth of white supremacy, the myth that the invisible hand of the market will do what is best for all. Myths, beautiful or destructive, are incredibly powerful. Hard to get outside of, even if we try. I'm here because I believe we collectively have bought into the wrong myth when it comes to public safety. I'm troubled and a bit puzzled that we put so many of the ills of society onto the shoulders of armed police officers. Mental health crises, homelessness, drug abuse, domestic disturbances, traffic violations. It's a lot. The myth we seem to be living within is that our best initial response to these and other problems are armed officers trained to look for threats. I applaud the city, like other speakers have done, Captain Parrish, and other leaders, directors, for having a social worker in the 911 call center, for co-responder programs like the mobile crisis units, REACT and Spark. These are good steps. But these are still like adding a few more supporting actors within the same movie, the same myth. What especially excites me about our city having well-funded, well-trained, non-police crisis response teams isn't just that it will relieve police officers from work they are not trained to do, not just that it will save the city millions of dollars it has in other cities. Not just that it will provide neighborhoods with what they've been asking for through community surveys, but also that it dares a different story. The beautiful myth that communities are best served by those with lived experience and neighborhood ties who look with unconditional positive regard. This is how they're trained, to look with unconditional positive regard on those who have called for their services. We are asking you, our city council, to lead us into not just alternative crisis response, but an alternative myth about how we create and maintain healthy and safe communities. You can start this right now by designating $10 million in the next budget to get this launched. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Pastor. Steve Stein and then Paisha Thomas is on WebEx.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Stein. I'm the president of the Columbus Firefighters Union, Local 67. And Chair Remy, thank you for the opportunity to offer some comments as you review the 2023 operational budget for the Department of Public Safety and specifically the Division of Fire. Since the Columbus Firefighters Union last addressed this council, the challenges to delivering exceptional care have only increased the demand upon our firefighters, our EMTs, and our paramedics to make life and death decisions on a daily basis. It's only increased. In January of 2021, the International Association of Firefighters commissioned a response analysis of the Columbus Division of Fire. That report is objective in nature, based on industry best practices to prioritize the health and safety of the public, as well as our CFD personnel. That report was furnished to key leaders in the mayor's administration, as well as every elected leader on this council. The findings of the IFF Emergency Response Report, put simply, says what this union has been saying for years. We must continue to prioritize hiring and training personnel to keep up with retirements and service separations from job-related injuries and illnesses like occupational cancer. In May of 2022, the Matrix Consulting Group, retained by the City of Columbus, published its operations review of the Columbus Division of Fire. The findings of the Matrix Consulting Report reiterate the findings of the IFF report. There are a litany of operational and capital recommendations that the City of Columbus Division of Fire must aggressively pursue. And I got to say, Chief Bryant caught my attention when she said that 71% of the recommendations in the police matrix report have already been accomplished. And we're all about competition. And so this union is in full support of Chief Happ and the administration to fly past the police department and our brothers and sisters in blue on that. We're in full support of accomplishing just about everything that's listed in that matrix report. Your Columbus Firefighters Union certainly commends the mayor's office and the actions of this council for increasing hiring to the extent possible in our existing facilities. But as you're well aware, there's much work to be done, not only to meet today's challenges and the expectations of our community, but to meet the public safety needs of the future of Columbus. We implore this council to continue to invest in your firefighters, because when our neighbors are in their moment of need, whatever it may be, there is no better trained group of professionals, firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, anywhere in the country than your Columbus firefighters. Our citizens deserve equity and safety, and that equity is rooted in emergency response coming from the very best, and that is your Columbus firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics. Thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you for your continued advocacy for the men and women of the Division of Fire. We will continue to push the administration and work with the administration to support, additional manpower. So we're not just staying steady, but we're actually growing, because as we know, there's new firehouses in the works. We need to make sure that they're fully staffed. And so appreciate your advocacy and coming down here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership.
And now we have Paisha Thomas on WebEx, and then following is Aaron Harris.
Sure, thank you so much. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much, Councilman Remy. And you've heard from my co-laborers in the community already. I want to shout out Lucy for allowing me to be able to tap in on WebEx. We've heard about crime. We've heard about all of the ways in which our city is responding to crime. And I'm here just to really support what my colleagues have said about our missing need for a non-police response, because some things are not crime, you guys, especially when the intent cannot be established. If a person is not found not competent to stand trial for a crime, perhaps they are experiencing a mental health crisis, for which sometimes, and in most cases, armed police officers are not necessary. So thank you very much for the call diversion. Like my colleague, Dr. Beavis said, we need to continue to work toward perfecting that by evaluating it to quantitate and qualitate that. Our mobile crisis response also, thank you. We need to continue to expand and evaluate that. The follow-up, again, we need to expand and follow up. What we don't have is a non-police response, which can avoid extra and excess contributions to the prison industrial complex, that can avoid incarceration when it's not necessary, when someone instead needs some kind of treatment that does not clog up the system. And we've already heard from public safety that you already have enough to do trying to fight the crime that you've discussed. And so why not, like my predecessor in the speaking lineup said, why not rely on people in the fire department and the medics that can answer these calls that do not need an armed officer? My son Aaron suffers from autism spectrum disorder and schizophrenia, and he is often in crisis and has been found to be not competent to stand trial. This means that Aaron needs another intervention, and it does not exist in the armed officer response. So grateful for the relationship that we've been working together to build for these past couple of years, and really just excited about the opportunity to collaborate with you all, because the people want this response, and we've seen that overwhelmingly in the stats. So let's add some scientific evaluation. Let's add some support, and let's get this done for our community, because you've asked us to reimagine public safety, and we're presenting and have presented a very feasible option in that reimagined version of our safety. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Thomas. We appreciate your testimony this evening. Aaron Harris and then Chana Wiley.
Hello, we meet again. Of course, as you said, my name is Erin Harris, and I am the bipolar ghostwriter. I am with Disability Rights of Ohio, Ohio Families United Against Police Brutality, and Good Life Ohio. And of course, I'm here for a little update as the year has been going on. During these events that we have been doing in the community, it has been a lot of notification that we have still been receiving a lot of deaths. So it's kind of like back to back. So just seeing that it is now a year anniversary due to my police brutality, nothing really has changed. It seems like I'm still in the underground, so I'm receiving a lot of information that a lot of people do not hear. So a lot of cases have been hidden, and I do believe that a lot should go into non-police response. Last year was a little more hectic than I thought it was, looking back on it. It was a little more pain in it and a little more false information around it also. We have been betrayed from police for so long. It's a lot of, I feel like it's a lot of energy behind them just coming out and just kind of, relieving a lot of stress. So it's kind of like either doing their job or they're gone. So it's really like we don't really have a lot of faith into the police because we have proof that we cannot trust them. The experience that I experienced last year was just a little out of this world. So me just putting forth into the community, seeing that I'm not the only one that has experienced that. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony this evening. And finally, we have Chana Wiley. Welcome, Ms. Wiley.
Good afternoon, Chairman Remy. I'm Chana Wiley from Columbus, Ohio. I use she, her pronouns. I want to talk today about non-police emergency response and why our residents deserve this to be funded by the City of Columbus. My brother, Jerron Thomas, called medics for help while experiencing a mental health crisis. Jerron was beaten to death in 2017 by Columbus Police Department. We don't need another resident to be killed or beaten by the police in a mental health crisis. I want to talk to you, and I want City Council to make things better. And how you guys can make that better is to adopt the policy proposal that we have presented to your office. You can continue to listen to what the residents want and what they're asking for. That is a non-police response system, not a co-responder model. Why do we want non-police? Trust. That's the main thing. We want to feel and know that we can trust the people that are responding to our residents in our community. Trained clinicians, social workers, peer support. They will listen, they will de-escalate, and they will respond to our calls with true care and compassion. We just don't want cops to show up. We want to feel safe. Our police behave authoritative and paternalistic. Residents also don't want to be criminalized while experiencing a crisis. Needing help doesn't always mean a pink slip is necessary, jail time is necessary, excessive force or deadly force is necessary. Working with Columbus Safety Collective has given me purpose in continuing my fight in the name of my brother, Jerron Thomas. The residents of Columbus work hard, they pay their taxes, and at least you can do is give them what they've asked for time and time again. The money is there. What's the reason for not providing this service? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wiley, and thank you to all of our public speakers this evening. We appreciate your testimony, and obviously we'll take this as feedback as we move forward in 2023. I'd like to end this hearing by thanking all of our committee partners here tonight for joining and presenting. Thank you for the time that you took to prepare your remarks. I look forward to 2023 and the exciting plans that each of these committees have in store for our community. Thank you to the council team, Lucy Frank, John Oswalt, Nia Walters, Nia Hairston, and Mark Carter, and to the CTV team for their assistance in preparing this hearing today. I want to wish everyone a very happy and safe holiday season. Have a great evening, everyone. And to Councilmember Dorrance, we warmed the crowd up for you. So thank you very much.